Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you guys had a great week. Welcome to College Football Time with Avery and Miguel. Avery, how's it going, partner?
It's going great, Miguel. We have another great week of college football. I think this week is going to be very exciting, like last week. Any given Saturday, like we say, it's game time.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to talk about Minnesota versus North Carolina. This is their first meeting, and it's an underrated matchup. Something about this matchup intrigues me. They're both 2-0. I like Minnesota's defense. Offensively, I give it to North Carolina. So it's one of these things where we don't know what kind of performance we're gonna get out of Drake May. Is he gonna dominate or is gonna be an abysmal or solid? Um Same thing with North Carolina's defense. We don't know what kind of defense we're gonna get from them. Minnesota, they still need work offensively. They're young and I feel like they're on the rise. But I feel that this is going to be more of a defensive game than an offensive game. I could be wrong. I'll leave my predictions at the end, but I'm excited for this matchup. And this is the first time they'll meet.
I agree, Miguel. This looks like a very underrated matchup. Also, it's a mid-afternoon game. Kickoff is going to be at 3:30. And you're right. If you look at the statistics, both teams seem very average right now. Drake May still early contender for Heisman, but for North Carolina, we need to take a step back. North Carolina nearly became a answer on trivia night because of their double overtime win versus Appalachian State. Appalachian State has been a bane for college football teams since 2007. North Carolina was ranked 17th last week. Even though they won in double overtime, they dropped 3 spots. I think they took Appalachian State a bit not too seriously. They were playing at home, but I think they were just riding high from their opening weekend win versus South Carolina. And I think that kind of rattled them a bit. But you're right. I see this as being a bit of a defensive matchup more so than an offensive matchup. Drake May so far has done very well, 477 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. However, I think it is going to be with the defense, and I think it's going to be with both teams' defense. North Carolina, they allow total yards 422, but so far Minnesota has only allowed a total of 223 yards per game. But their pass, they've only allowed 92, but you have North Carolina allowing over 300. But their rush is near even. So I think Minnesota and North Carolina, their defense is going to step up. I think the only real advantage North Carolina has could be playing at home. Granted, it kind of was an advantage last week versus Appalachian State, but I think this could be a real advantage. Minnesota, they started off the season very well. They beat Nebraska in Matt Rhule's opening game as head coach. They won decisively versus Eastern Michigan last week. I think this could be a real test for Minnesota. Minnesota always starts out very strong early in the year, and playing North Carolina, especially after them nearly losing last week versus Appalachian State, could be a key. I do see this as being defensive. The over/under is about 65, but I see this being a bit lower. I think both teams could start off real strong, touchdowns here, a couple of defensive stops. But I'm going to give this to North Carolina. I think last week with Appalachian State kind of rattled them a bit, but I think Minnesota is going to keep in it. But I'm going to give this to North Carolina, especially since they dropped in the ranking.
Minnesota does tend to start hot. It reminded me last year. I think they started 3-0, 4-0, somewhere like that. And then from there, just The one game I wish it would have been interesting to see in was the game against Syracuse at Yankee Stadium. Especially since it's so close to me. I wish I could have seen that, but then again, I don't like being in stadiums when it's too cold. So I don't know. That's just me. But I see I'm gonna go with North Carolina 20-17. I feel like this is a close game. They do have North Carolina winning by 7.5, but I'll say it'll be tight. I say it'll be a little tighter than that. So it's hard for me to root against North Carolina for this game. I like Drake May. I like Minnesota's defense. So mutual respect to both teams. But I'm gonna go with the edge on North Carolina on this one, especially since what happened with Appalachian State.
I agree with you, Miguel. I think it's going to be close, but I think North Carolina could possibly pull away later in the game. I'm going to give this to North Carolina also, but I'm going to go a bit higher. I'm going to say North Carolina 35, Minnesota 20. I think it's going to be close probably till about halftime. And then in the second half, North Carolina is probably going to kick it up a notch and then go ahead and run away offensively. But I think the key early in the game is going to be both teams' defense. But I see this as being one of those early highlight games, especially defensively. But I think offensively, Drake May is going to get locked in, and North Carolina is going to take it in the end.